And without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the committee at any time. Before we begin today's markup, I would like to take a moment to recognize the life of Tiffany Joslyn, who we tragically lost just over a week ago. And I'd like to begin by recognizing the gentleman from Michigan, the ranking member, Mr. Conyers.
Thank you, Chairman Goodlatte. Members of the committee, these thoughts and remembrance of Tiffany Joslyn, our Democratic Deputy Chief Counsel for the Subcommittee on Crime, are directed to her family, who suffered her loss as well as her brother Derek on March the 5th. Tiffany was, as many of you know, a special person who'd worked with us for only a relatively brief period of time, and who made a lasting contribution to her colleagues on this committee after working for years on the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. She joined us on the committee as we were preparing to engage in our effort to draft legislation to reform various aspects of the criminal justice system. She had expertise, diligence, and good humor, and she had been working on legislation dealing with youth and justice issues. Her professional life, as well as her efforts to advance many causes outside of her work, was motivated by a strong sense of fairness and caring, and we'll miss her, remember her, and be inspired by her working with us for this very brief period of time. And I thank the chairman.
The chair thanks the gentleman and would also recognize the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee, for her thoughts about Tiffany.
Chairman, thank you. And for those who may not remember or will remember, we remember her as a joyful and spirited young woman who I had the privilege of interviewing over a series of days. Her tenacity and determination to secure this position as my counsel to the Committee on Crime was unceasing and overwhelming. I think she hired herself. But what I would say to all of you is that this is a devastating loss. It is an emotional loss because she loved this country. And by loving this country, she had the ability to reach to the most vulnerable, many of whom who have confronted the criminal justice system unfairly. But even with that philosophy, she had the ability to listen to other positions and help work with us and Mr. Conyers and all of our staff and the Republican staff and Mr. Goodlatte, Sensenbrenner, on crafting enormously far-reaching and reformational changes to the criminal justice system for the better. She is beloved, as I indicated in my statement, a beloved staff member, and her tenure here does not in any way suggest or limit the impact that she made and the lasting love that she will have from all of my staff and me. To our fellow staff members and members whose staff engaged with her, mostly each and every one of you, she was determined to get on every bill that we were attempting to pass, and 2 of them we did pass. But most specifically, to the family that is devastated and without words. I'll close by saying that Tiffany left Washington to comfort her 2 younger stepbrothers for the tragic loss that they had in a loved one killed in a car crash. And the Sunday before she was to come back, she and her brother, 2 children of her father, were killed in a car crash, and her beloved cat was injured, and other sister-in-law as well was injured. So we know what a tragedy it is. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for allowing me, and Mr. Ranking Member, full committee, for allowing me to pay this tribute. We will be going with staff to her memorial today, but we invite all of you, including those from outside this room who gave so many tributes, to join us in April for a befitting tribute to this vital, young, energetic young American. With that, Mr. Chairman, I hope that we will have an opportunity for a moment of silence, but I yield back to you at this time.
I thank the gentlewoman, and before we have a moment of silence, I'd also like to say that Tiffany was a well-respected, dedicated, and loyal member of the House Judiciary Committee family, and we were all deeply affected by her untimely passing. In the short time Tiffany worked on our committee, she developed a strong working relationship with her colleagues, especially the staff on the crime subcommittee on both sides of the aisle, who unanimously praised her ability to strongly advocate for the Democratic members of the committee, in particular the gentlelady from Texas, by making persuasive and balanced appeals to consider her members' views, yet always leaving negotiations friendly. She was the epitome of a professional who could disagree without being disagreeable. Tiffany worked side by side with majority crime subcommittee staff to craft a number of pivotal bills that the committee has considered in recent months as part of our criminal justice reform initiative. Her legal acumen and dedication to these issues were instrumental in producing these bipartisan bills. I trust we will keep Tiffany in our hearts and minds as we move forward with these bills. I know I speak for the entire committee when I say we extend our deepest sympathies to her family as they mourn the loss of Tiffany and her brother Derek. And now I do think it's appropriate if we have a moment of silence in their memory.